You have the next question to Ms. Swafford, please.
Ms. Swafford, you talk as a libertarian. You know, we take a look at so many Republicans and Democrats adhere to many libertarian principles. They like the idea of the Libertarian Party, but they don't seem to like the candidates. You take a look at the numbers the Libertarian candidates get, it's somewhere between 4 and 7% all across the country. You seem to be tracking that sort of number as well. At what point does the Libertarian Party break through and become a real challenger to Republicans and Democrats? And the second part of that question is, and maybe the third part, A, is it you, and B, will it happen in our lifetime?
I think we're certainly getting there. If you look in the 2008 election, we had a candidate who was, the 2010 election, we had a candidate who was able to take 1 million votes in Georgia. The Libertarian Party has actually had a candidate in 2012 that also took 1 million votes in the races. And I'm a candidate who's running for United States Senate as the only candidate who's had elective experience in our local government. I have a record for voting for less government and more freedom. You know, we went to the National Convention this year, and I've been a Libertarian Party for 18 years, and I can tell you the world of difference our candidates are already making. We have a whole new theory and sense that there are a lot of people that are standing up and getting tired of voting for the same old, because we've been promised reform time and time again, and we never get it. Everyone is tired of the IRS and the fair tax, and yet Congress has never given us the fair tax. Why not? You have to ask these questions. And I think it's time. And the American people that here in Georgia, we're just ready for the power and responsibility of the individual. Woo!
Jim Galloway, you have the next question. It goes to Mr. Perdue, please.
Mr. Perdue, let's talk about Saxby Chambliss, whom you want to replace. He has been working with Mark Warner, the Democrat from Virginia, to find an acceptable way to pare down a $17 trillion deficit through a combination of reduction in entitlement spending and increased federal revenue by closing federal tax loopholes, and perhaps decreasing the corporate tax rate at the same time. Mr. Perdue, you have rejected that approach, even though you say the federal deficit is the nation's greatest national security threat. Tell us why, tell us what your approach would be.
Thank you. First of all, we have low-hanging fruit. To solve the debt crisis, we have to cut spending. We have $480 billion of redundant agencies in the federal government. Not my number, this is the General Accounting Office number, $480 billion. That's the first place I would go. The second, in terms of growing the economy, what we've got to do is put people back to work again, and the way you do that is create jobs. That's what I'm proud of in my career. I've been working hard to create jobs. What we have to do right now, in my opinion, is we have to reform our tax code, we have to pull the regulators back, and we have to finally unlock our energy resources. This country has the best workers in the world, but bad government policies are keeping us from putting them back to work and competing. Why? Because this failed administration does not understand how to create jobs. My president and my opponent tonight believe that bigger government, more taxes, more regulation creates jobs. I'm living proof that is not the case.
Jim Galloway, who wants to follow up?
Yes. If we could give Ms. Nunn and Ms. Swafford 30 seconds on that same question, if we could, please.
Could you clarify, repeat the question, please?
On Saxby Chambliss and how to reduce a $17 trillion federal deficit. Do you do it through a combination of spending cuts and revenue increases?
Well, I tell you, one thing is that the government is really bad at picking winners and losers, and that if you're not connected to the right people, or your industry doesn't have the most effective lobby, you're at an extreme disadvantage in this regulatory and tax environment. The libertarian solution is really a three-step process. You have to strip government of the power to manipulate free enterprise, reduce tax reform into there, and bring spending in line with our actual budget.
Yes.
These are simple things. Why haven't we done that already? It's a simple question.
Yes.
I had said during this campaign, I think I might have been the only person who said and complimented Saxby Chambliss for his work with Mark Warner, because I believe that it is central that we have bipartisanship, and that we do need to grow the economy, cut spending, and reform our tax code. David talks about his experience in actually creating jobs, but I just want to remind folks that he just yesterday said that he was proud of a career in which he spent the majority of his time outsourcing American jobs. So that pride has cost a lot of people quite a bit of pain.
We will wrap up this question with 30-second rebuttal from Mr. Perdue.
Thank you, Frank. Let me tell you what I'm proud of. I'm proud of spending my career creating and saving real jobs. Michell Nunn's false attack will not change any of that. Thank you, Frank.
All right. Next question, Randall Savage. It goes to Ms. Nunn, please.
2 parts. First, do you support a balanced budget amendment? And secondly, since Congress has ignored previous attempts to implement a balanced budget amendment, if you're elected senator, how would you go back and change their mind and get them to approve a referendum on a balanced budget?
I do support efforts like Mark Udall's balanced budget amendment, and I think that it is time. I have said also that I believe that, for instance, we should ask every member of Congress to say they don't get paid unless we pass an annual budget. So I do think there are measures that we can take that would create more fiscal discipline and give us an opportunity to restore regular order, pass an annual budget. We do not need the kind of dysfunction that leads us to government shutdowns. David Perdue has endorsed shutting down our government as a political tactic. That is not helpful. It has cost our economy billions of dollars. 77,000 people in Georgia were furloughed during that government shutdown. So we need principled efforts and ideas like the balanced budget amendment, but we also need to send people to Washington that are not about attacking and that are not just about paralyzing and polarizing our government.
It's very interesting that my Democratic opponent says she would support a balanced budget. We couldn't get Harry Reid and Barack Obama to give us a reconciled budget for 5 years. In this race, so 70% of us know we're headed in the wrong direction. We can sit here and name call all day, but we have to set a new direction to put people back to work in this country again. That's what's at stake in this race. Thank you.
Leah, you have the next question to Ms. Wofford, please.
Ms. Wofford, Congress has had a 9% approval rating, something very low like that. Both Democrats and Republicans have prescribed a dose of civility to restore Washington. If elected, what's one issue that you can agree with President Obama?
I absolutely agree with his call for more open and transparent government. But he's not doing it. But I would like to push him to be more open and transparent across all levels of government. I don't think we know enough about what goes on in our government. Just look how long the NSA spying program existed before we knew what went on. How many things in government do we really not know what's going on? The Federal Reserve? We didn't even know what existed behind Federal Reserve until 60 Minutes for the first time showed us on TV what was going on. There's so much in government that we don't know about. So I agree with the President's efforts to bring open and transparency to government, but I'd just like to see more effort on his part and to do that. And also his brotherhood initiative that he's got to support families and to bring more openness and family support to our Black community. I'd really like to see him push that more and use his platform to support that because it's an admirable program and he doesn't speak about that enough. So those are two programs I could definitely get behind with our president on.
All right. Jeff Hollinger, Jeff, you have the next question. It goes to Mr. Perdue, please.
Mr. Perdue, let's talk a little bit about outsourcing. It is a word that has resonated through reporters, through your candidate, through your opponent in this race for the U.S. Senate. You have said before that Washington is the solution for outsourcing. If that indeed is correct, what should public policy be about this subject that is very, very divisive in this country?
Well, first of all, let's get this straight. What causes companies to fail? Because they can't compete. Right now, we have a history in this country, the entire industry is being decimated by government policy, bad government policy. Textile, apparel, footwear, electronics, even furniture. Bad management on the part of any individual didn't cause entire industries to disappear. Don't be misled by false statements about what I have said or what I haven't said about my career. One line out of a 180-page document was taken from 10 years ago. What we have to do right now, in my opinion, is to get America working again. And that's why we have to focus on tax reform, regulatory reform, and get our energy finally released. This is critical to set the stage for a new era of economic growth in America. Our kids deserve better than we're giving them right now today.
Ms. Nunn, what do you feel about public policy requires outsourcing? What is your view on this?
Well, David has talked about failed government policies of President Obama and Harry Reid. In fact, I'm not sure that he recognizes that he's not running against Harry Reid. His tenure of outsourcing took place over 40 years, period. So to blame this administration, for instance, on what happened during his work at Pillowtex or Reebok or Sara Lee, when he was outsourcing thousands of jobs, there have been a lot of folks that have been creating manufacturing jobs right here in Georgia at the same time.
David, we're going to wrap this up with rebuttal, Mr. Perdue, 30 seconds, and we need to move on.
Michelle, I have a lot of respect for you, but you're dead wrong. I am absolutely running against Barack Obama and Harry Reid. Make no mistake, no amount of false advertising will move the fact that Barack Obama handpicked you, he hand-funded you, he's mentoring you. Do you really believe that we'll believe that you will not bite the hand that feeds you? You will bite the hand that feeds you. Sorry.
Jim Galloway, we'll direct the next question to Ms. Nunn, please.
Ms. Nunn, we're going to stick with that topic. You have attacked Mr. Perdue for his comments on outsourcing. Many of your union supporters would argue that the North American Free Trade Agreement is to blame. Do you think we should rework that trade agreement with Canada and Mexico?
I believe that we should always pursue and ensure that we are creating an equal playing field. I've talked to business people, unions, farmers, and over again, they say we don't need a special favor, we need an even playing field. We need to make sure.
Do we have that field?
I think that we need to continue to work towards that, both with every form of trade, whether that's with the transatlantic trade or the trans-Pacific that's going forward. We need to make sure that environmental protections are in place and that worker protections are in place, and that we are creating an opportunity for jobs and for the export of our products that are so important.
We have time to ask Mr. Perdue that same question.
Yes, thank you, Jim. What? I'm sorry, but we do not have a level playing field. American jobs are being lost because this administration is making it harder for small businesses to compete with manufacturers around the world. My opponent will be just a rubber stamp for this failed agenda that has put more people out of work since Jimmy Carter was president.
Ms. Nunn, we'll wrap this up with a 30-second rebuttal.
I'm not sure what that was in response to. Did you actually address the question about NAFTA? I don't think so. I didn't hear it. I think, again, I just go back to the fact that David has said that he is prosecuting the president in this race, prosecuting Harry Reid. Those are the choices that people have.
more question before closing statements. Randall Savage, you will direct that question to Ms. Swafford, please.
Ms. Swafford, President Nixon declared war on drugs back in the 1970s. As a senator, what suggestions would you make to win that war?
Well, I would say in this country, every 48 seconds, we're using precious law enforcement resources to arrest someone for the possession of marijuana. Every 48 seconds. Individuals are being sent to jail for just possessing marijuana, and those are precious resources where we could be housing truly violent criminals. So I would look at that. First of all, I would look at the industrial complex of prisons. Prisons are really big business in America now, federal prisons especially, and that's huge. So I think we have to get serious about looking at all the wars our federal government is waging. Has it really made a difference? All the wars that the federal government's trying to do? Government is really bad in almost everything it tries to do. Maybe it's time to take a different approach and look at some alternatives and go to treatment and look at some options that maybe fighting the war on drugs is more appropriate to look from a health and alternative perspective like that.
All right, it is now time for closing statements. Folks, we're going to need to be able to give them their 60 seconds, so we're going to be able to hear them. Every time you clap or roar and interrupt, they have to stop. That takes away from their time. They've only got a minute, so we need to hear it, please. Closing statements, we drew beforehand. Ms. Nunn, we start with you.
So thank you, Frank. Thank you to our panelists for your good questions. And a special thanks to a very raucous, passionate crowd across the spectrum. Thank you for participating. To tell y'all, everywhere I go in Georgia, people tell me that they know we need to fix Washington. We need to change Washington, that it's broken. And they know that we need a different kind of leadership in order to do that. David, throughout this campaign, has evidenced that he does not have the leadership that's necessary. Whether that's opposing bipartisan immigration, the Farm Bill, embracing the government shutdown, or during this campaign, actually putting forth what has been called the worst ad in all of America. Shameful that it was given by pundits and by President Bush's son, Neil Bush. So I have the experience, the values, the aspiration to bring people together and to get things done in Washington, to serve the people in Georgia, and to make a difference in their lives. And I ask you for your vote and for your support.
Mr. Perdue. Mr. Perdue now has 1 minute closing statement, please.
You know, Michelle tells us that I'm not running against Barack Obama, but Barack Obama even said this week that his policies are on the ballot this year in this race in Georgia. He handpicked her. He funded her. He supports her. Do you really think that she's not going to support him when she gets there? Look, the decision in this race is very simple. If you like what's going on in Washington, vote for my opponent. Because she'll be nothing but a rubber stamp for Barack Obama and Harry Reid, and nothing will change. But if you're as outraged as I am by the size and scope of this government, about the failed policies of this administration, and by the debt that they're piling on the backs of our kids and grandkids, then stand with me. And let's take America forward for everyone. I'm David Perdue. I'm asking for your vote and your support to be our next leader.
Closing statement, Ms. Swafford, please.
Have you really heard anything different tonight from these two parties? All they really want to do is rearrange big government and make big government more efficient. At its core, I don't believe big government solutions work. Both parties have controlled Congress at various times for decades. Can you name one government program that they've given us that's actually worked? Can you name anything that they've done to reduce government interference in our lives or restore personal freedom to us? Take a look around you. Government, politics, it's big money. a lot of you came down here on buses that were provided at no cost. You took free buses and had free meals provided to you by both parties. It's time that we get serious about electing a candidate who understands the power and responsibility of the individual lives with true government. I hope you will consider us on November 4th. I'm honored to be here because I don't feel entitled to your vote in any way. Thank you so much.
David Perdue, Michell Nunn, and the Swap. Thank you very much for being here tonight.